Hello YouTube, this is Mike, and this is the 4 things that heal BPD and NPD abuse channel. Just to be clear, that's what this channel is about. If you are watching videos on this channel, I am here to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to tell you what I did, which completely, 100% cured me of all of the pain and trauma that I was experiencing as a result of being in a romantic relationship with a woman who had undiagnosed, untreated borderline personality disorder. So, before we go any further, that is the point of this channel. If you're here for any other reason, if you're here because you have BPD and you want to attack me because you think I've said something that stigmatizes you, this is the wrong channel for you. If you're on here because you want to figure out how to make it work with somebody who has a mental illness, this is the wrong channel for you. If, however, you want to heal, you are a person who's been with a narcissist and or borderline, and you are in a tremendous amount of pain and you want to heal, this is the channel for you. I literally tell you exactly how to do it. Surprisingly, very few people actually follow through with that, but that's a whole other subject. Just to be clear, borderline personality disorder is, as of right now, things continue to change as we go into the future, so who knows what will happen. A lot of things are going to change as we go into the future. But as of right now, people with borderline personality disorder, there is treatment. And it is possible for somebody with borderline personality disorder to gain some recovery. However, before you get your hopes up, it usually doesn't happen when they're in a relationship, and it usually takes about 10 years of intense therapy. And so if you're with one hoping that if you just get them into therapy, that's probably going to backfire on you. Almost certainly will. But what you may not realize is that you yourself, if you have been in a relationship and you have been damaged by a borderline, means that there's something within you that needs to be healed. Because, forgive me for saying so, but healthy, individuated people do not end up in relationships with borderlines. Period. End of story. So, I haven't been on the channel for a while, and the reason is because I keep repeating myself, and I've got nothing better to do today, so I'm going to repeat myself. And so I get tired of repeating myself, but today I'm going to. So we're going to take a look at some comments here, and we'll start with this first one. This is very common. Let me preface this by saying, if you relate to this question, what it means is you are still attached and perhaps in love with somebody who has BPD. Turns out there's something different about this person, which we'll get to. But if you ask this question, it means that you are in denial. You say you know your partner has BPD, and yet you ask a very irrational question, which means that you're hoping that they don't have it. And you don't realize that that's what you're saying. This person says, they can't help it. At what point do they take accountability for abuse? That's like saying cold-blooded murder wasn't someone's fault because of his disorder. Now, this person has no idea how insane that statement is, but that's an insane statement. Bear in mind, the assumption is we're talking about people who have a personality disorder. And if you take a look at what borderline personality disorder is, you find out that the reason that they have a personality disorder, which means that there's this line where we have psychopathy on one hand and we have neurosis on the other. Psychopathy, somebody who has psychosis, means that they're disconnected from reality, that they don't have a working relationship with objective reality. It also means that they don't have, their brain doesn't function properly. It means that they don't have a working memory so their memory is not accurate. This is somebody who has a mental illness. Okay, can you accept that concept? Somebody who has a mental illness? In other words, if we were talking about somebody who had schizophrenia and this person were to ask this same question, they can't help it. At what point does the schizophrenic take accountability for their insane behavior? You would say, what are you talking about? You just answered your own question. The person has schizophrenia. They're completely disconnected from reality. You're expecting them to be normal? Come on, think it through. This person is in this kind of a crazed state. To ask, how can somebody who has the very serious mental illness of borderline personality disorder, at what point do they see reality for what it is? So they answered their own question. That's like saying cold-blooded murder wasn't someone's fault because of his disorder. Well, assuming somebody has, like serial killers who are certifiably insane, that's exactly right. They are incapable internally of taking responsibility, number one, because they're insane and they have no empathy. They don't even understand what they've done. That's what's going on here. And what a horrific waste of your time and energy to be railing at somebody who literally is not in touch with reality. But he's now going to make the argument that they are rational and that they don't have a mental illness, because what he wants and what he needs to believe, and this is important if you relate to this question, what he needs to believe is that this person actually is sane and that this person actually can choose to do the right thing, which means that they have empathy, they don't dissociate, they have a clear memory, they identify with who they are, that they have an identity, all of the things that people with BPD do not have if they're untreated. So I said, that's exactly right. Both the psychopathic murderer and the BPD have serious mental illnesses. Did you miss the part where they suffer from mental illnesses that prevent them from knowing objective reality? How can someone who is mentally ill, who does not know reality from fantasy, take accountability? And then I say, you, on the other hand, obviously have a deep resentment against a mentally ill person whom you repeatedly, actually, I won't go any further because it turns out he's not talking about himself. But the question is, which he didn't again answer, why? Because he is in effect in an insane state of mind. He himself probably does not suffer from a personality disorder, but he's in some some neurosis. So the difference between neurosis and psychosis is psychosis is that you are disconnected from objective reality. You have a mental illness. Neurosis is you're not disconnected from objective reality, but you really don't like it. And it makes you feel crazy. You struggle with reality, but you are aware of it. He's in this spot. What he wants to believe is that the borderline is sane. And he can't accept that they're not, which is why he keeps asking questions that pertain to sane people. And this is because he's in a lot of pain. And what he believes, and if you are in the same state, you believe this also. What he believes is if he can just convince the abusive person to see the pain that they're causing, that they will stop, they will realize what they're doing, and they will, as he says, take accountability, which means they will act from empathy. Because what he's really trying to fix is, I'm willing to bet if it's not a romantic relationship, then definitely a parental relationship. His parents probably had some kind of parenting dysfunction which left him in a place where he felt unseen, unloved, and abused, and that creates cognitive dissonance, which is why I obviously am a human being who deserves to be loved. Why was this person so hurtful to me? creates a cognitive dissonance that never heals. Because in order to try and heal that cognitive dissonance, what we do is we go out and we have relationships with people who are unavailable and abusive, because we're trying to fix what got broken in childhood. So based on what this person says later, he's talking about somebody else, but it's obviously this person is in a lot of pain. And if he can just answer the question, why would this person hurt someone else like this? Then I'll be able to finally figure out how I can get my parents to love me. This is on an unconscious level. We replay this out. Even if your parents die, you replay this out. You find somebody else who is dysfunctional, who can't love you, and then you work to convince them that you are worthy of love, and you hold on to the hope that they are rational. Because if they are, that means there's hope. You can convince them. You can talk them into loving you. And the answer to his question is they aren't capable, and he can't tolerate that. What do you mean they're not capable of loving me? I'm lovable. Why can't you love me? Because they're broken. And until you accept that, you will be in the hell that this person is in, literally asking insane questions. How does the mentally ill person not know what they're doing? That's an insane question. So he responds again, he doesn't listen to the questions I asked, like, so did you get the part that they have a mental illness? He doesn't address that because he's in denial of that. Consciously, he'll say, yes, they have a mental illness, but on an unconscious level, that's absolutely intolerable because he can't tolerate the thought of somebody not loving him. He can't tolerate it. So in his mind, they become evil geniuses who feel empathy, who know what they're doing and are choosing not to do it. They're bad, evil people. He says, so if they murder their own children, it's not their fault. Got it. Well, you didn't get it, because that does happen. There are mentally ill people. And again, so it's interesting, he's bringing up something that isn't relevant. He's not talking about somebody who's a child murderer. But this gives you an idea of how he feels. So now I know it was his parents that caused the initial wound in him. He says, so if they murder their own children, you only come up with that example if you feel as though as a child you were murdered by your parent. So this is the wound that he's taking into his life. Now he's talking about somebody else, which is extremely codependent. But codependent people project their pain onto others. That's what makes them codependent. So he's severely codependent. He has a wound from his childhood. And again, that created a cognitive dissonance. He can't tolerate the thought that his parents didn't love him. He was a worthwhile, and he was a worthwhile, lovable little child who was either hurt or betrayed or unloved. And he understandably can't understand that. And so he projects that onto that. And in order to express the feeling he has of his cognitive dissonance, of being a worthwhile, lovable little child that hasn't been loved, he has to come up with a scenario that expresses his emotional state. If they murder their own children, it's not their fault. It doesn't matter if they murder their own children or somebody else's children. It doesn't matter. If they have a mental illness that prevents them from having empathy and understanding being able to empathize with others because their brain isn't working and psychologically they're severely damaged, that's right, they don't get it. What do you mean it's not their fault? Are they physically responsible? Yes. Are they mentally responsible? No. Does that mean we let them run free? No, we've got to lock people like that up. He says, so the abuse they dish out and acknowledge isn't their fault as well. So this is understandable because he now says because they have verbally acknowledged it. And by the way, not all of them do. So obviously he's talking about somebody who he experienced as verbally acknowledging it. So because somebody verbally acknowledged what they did, that obviously means that they're sane and they know what they're doing. Can you see I mean, this is, the more I talk about it, the more uncomfortable I'm getting. He's on a hamster wheel and he can't get off. And this is a very sad state of affairs. The only cure for this is to do the four things. But in order to do that, you have to take responsibility. This person does not appear to me to be in the mindset of taking any personal responsibility for their interactions, for their feelings, and for their pain. He says they know damn well what they are doing. So it's an understandable position, but it means that you don't understand the mental illness that they suffer from. So people who have BPD as well as NPD, it means that they were severely traumatized. It could be as simple as an infant being left on a doorstep for a day or two. That's enough to break them. They'll never get over that trauma. More than likely, it means that they lived in a home where they had a narcissistic parent, like a narcissistic or a BPD mother, and it meant that they were abandoned, neglected, abused. There might have been conflicting. They love them one moment, they hate them the next, and this creates a schism in their brain that actually messes with their brain structure, and they end up never creating an identity. So he says they know damn well what they're doing. In order for somebody to know what they're doing, they have to have an identity. Your identity is what roots you into a morality. He's got a problem with their morality. He believes that they know what they're doing, that they're choosing to be bad because somehow they benefit from it. Let me make something else clear. Borderlines and narcissists do not benefit from their destructive behavior. It is as damaging to them, if not more, than it is to you. So the idea that you have that they're laughing at you because they've taken from you and they've benefited from your love and it's healed them and nurtured them, but they're refusing to run away because they're not going to give back to you. Ha 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 ha! I did it again. My evil genius plan of stealing their love and not giving back worked. Ha ha ha! That's not what's happening. They are incapable of, obviously they're incapable of giving long-term love. We're not talking about love bombing. They're incapable of giving long-term love if they're untreated. And it also means they're incapable of receiving it. So in order for somebody to know what they're doing, it means that they need to be consciously aware of what's happening. And when you talk to borderlines, if you've been in the relationship with them and they're splitting, they will look you in the face and you can tell that they believe it when they tell you you are doing some horrible thing to them that you're not doing. If he's talking about somebody who after the fact narcissistically says, yeah, I lied to you, I did this, I did that, it doesn't mean that they are reporting something that they consciously planned out, unless we're talking about a full-blown narcissist. If we're talking about a borderline, we're talking about somebody who's, they're not even attached to what they're saying. It's a facade. Anyway, they don't know what they're doing, because if they did know what they were doing, obviously, they would do things that had the effect of having people love them and stay with people who love them. It is an insane thing to do to destroy and run away from somebody who's actively being loving to you. So they obviously don't know what they're doing. And the sad part is, if I say that, this is intolerable for this person to hear. He can't tolerate it, because here's why. If when I say to you that they don't know what they're doing, that they're not responsible for their actions, the hurtful actions they've done to you, if that is intolerable for you to listen to, it means that you can't tolerate the thought that your parents didn't love you. See, here's the thing. It's got nothing to do with the borderline. You you chased after the borderline because the original wound was your parents. And what you have cognitive dissonance about, which you're trying to work out with a person who may be even worse than your parents. That was my case. I chased after a borderline because I really needed to, of course, this was fully unconscious. I wasn't conscious of any of this. I really needed to exaggerate the abusive nature so that I could finally fix it. It was really about getting my mom to love me. And my mom, by that point, was dead. So, I was seeking out somebody who I could finally say, yeah, mom loves me on an unconscious level. So if you're saying they did it, they know what they did, when are they going to take accountability? What you're really saying is, when is my mom and or my dad going to finally realize that I'm worthy of love? And the truth is, if they haven't by now, they never will. And that's the part you can't tolerate. If you can accept that your parents perhaps were mentally ill, that they had no empathy, that they were broken, and that it has nothing to do with you, then you get to mourn over the sadness. What this person is not doing is they're not mourning over the sadness. They're in denial of it. And it makes them angry that people won't do what they want, which is to act rationally and lovingly with empathy. And the insanity is he wants somebody who has a mental illness, which means that they don't have true empathy, they don't have an identity, they don't remember who they were yesterday, or they can't continue to, be in the future what they want to be now. They can't see you. This is the other part. They never see you. He can't tolerate this thought either. He can't tolerate the thought that his mother never saw him. He can't tolerate it. And who could? It's a horrific thought. So we take solace in the rage of, how dare you manipulate me, lie to me, hurt me? How dare you do that? I demand that you change right now, which is what he means by saying taking accountability. When he says accountability, he wants them to feel his pain and he wants them to change their behavior, which is, he's now in almost an insane state. He's in a neurotic state. He's trying to get to control somebody to do something that they're incapable of doing. You can't yell at a zebra for having stripes. You can't tell the zebra that they have stripes, that they're purposefully putting stripes when they could just be one color. That's an insane thing to do. He's yelling and screaming at an insane person saying that they need to take responsibility. If you relate to any of this, then you are a candidate for doing the 4 things, which I will tell you about at the end of the video. I say these people literally have enough. No, he goes on. That's him going on. They literally have enough self-awareness to love bomb, manipulate, and use someone. That's not awareness. Quite, again, this person probably hasn't done a whole lot of study on this. Love bombing is nothing more than projection. So you want to believe that love bombing is the evil genius with his monocle and his white cat. Sitting in his posh study as he plans out how to destroy you, you silly weakling with empathy. So he thinks that they literally are planning it out. No, that's not what happens. First off, one of the things that was most helpful for me when I first started looking into borderline personality disorder, I was still in the midst of the relationship, in a huge amount of pain and suffering from tremendous cognitive dissonance, I'm very lovable. I'm not doing nothing but love this person. Why are they abandoning me and being so cruel to me? Cognitive dissonance. I was in a form of extreme neurosis. And I started looking into borderline personality disorder. And what I saw was a website. I don't remember it. I'm sorry. Don't ask me for it because I don't remember it. A website where somebody wrote the perfect thing which I needed to read, which was that it's important to understand that borderlines don't see you. So in order for, according to him, in order for somebody to have enough self-awareness to plan out the love bombing, that means that they have to see you. They don't see you. So it went on to say, borderlines don't see you. You are a fuzzy outline of a human that they project onto. So understand that love bombing is projection. When they love bomb you, you think they love you. See, this is why he's now in the state of they planned it out. They knew they didn't love me, and they knew they were planning to hurt me, because that makes sense. And for him, if he can have it make sense, it gives him a sense of safety. He feels like he understands what's happening, which he obviously doesn't, because if he did, he wouldn't be in so much cognitive dissonance and in so much pain. So it makes him feel like he understands what's going on. And so the easiest thing for him to do is assume that they're evil. Now, bear in mind, there is no such thing as evil the way we think it is. We think an evil person is somebody who is rational, who has empathy but chooses not to use it, who knows exactly what they're doing and is planning out everything that they do. Instead of, what's really going on is you have a very broken person who has no individuality, who dissociates from everything, including themselves, which means they don't remember what happened yesterday. If they do remember what happened yesterday, like he says, they can say, I did it. They can say, yeah, I said this and I did that, but they personally don't identify with it. They don't even remember it. Most of the time, they don't remember what they've done the day before. They won't even remember what they did tomorrow. My borderline proved this to me when I was with her, when she was in the love bombing stage. She said, we sat around and we made these plans for our life and how wonderful and beautiful our life was going to be. And she says, we need to record this. And I said, okay. She said, no, seriously, we have to record this. And she says, because sometimes I forget things. And I didn't understand at the time, but what she was aware that the positive, loving feeling she was having for me, if she went to bed, she would wake up the next day and she wouldn't identify with it. And she knew enough to know that she would lose the feeling, that she would even not remember who she was or what she said. So she wanted, her hope was that she would hit play and watch the video and then be pulled back into the feeling. And so she was actually trying to keep the relationship going, knowing there was a possibility that she would lose it. So there was some awareness there on her part, but most borderlines don't have this. They get wrapped up in the moment, and then they wake up and they go, yeah, there was somebody that looked, and I mean this literally, there was somebody that looked and sounded like me that said that and had sex with that person and promised to marry them, but that wasn't me. And they mean it. You hear this all the time with serial killers, which is, of course, a more advanced form of this lack of empathy, but they will say honestly, and they'll mean it. When you show them a picture of somebody they murdered, they'll go, that wasn't me. And they'll mean it. It's because they don't identify. They dissociate. When your borderline is love bombing you, they aren't seeing you. It's not because of anything you did. You happen to be there, and they're taking these feelings that they have for their parents, because that's all that they really do. They're taking the loving feelings they have for their parents, and they're literally pasting it onto you. And then that's why they love bomb you. They're not love bombing you because they're planning it out. They're love bombing you because they're re-experiencing the infantile love and literal worship they had for their parents in an attempt to fix that problem. They're trying to get their parents to love them. That's your job. Your job is to love them the way their parents should have, which is why it never works out, by the way. So when they love bomb you, it's not because they're planning to manipulate you to make you fall in love so they can hurt you later. No, they absolutely, in those moments of love bombing, they absolutely believe that it'll work this time, that this love they have for you will never go away, That's why they say things like, I've never felt like this before. You're the only person who really understands me. You treat me, mine actually said, you're the best. She literally said I was the best. You're the best person. You're my favorite person. Because they actually want it to work. This is the sad part. And this is why you believe them. Because they mean it. They're not lying to you. Now, you don't suffer from BPD, so you can't understand how you would go from that state of absolutely loving someone to then hating them. So the only logical conclusion is they must have planned it out. They must be evil, horrific geniuses that planned out how to manipulate and get all this love out of me so that they could hurt me. The whole point was they wanted to hurt me. And the reason why you say that is because you can't imagine doing that. And if you did do that, that would be the only reason you did it. Of course, you would never do that. But if I did, that would be why. I would have been planning out how to hurt them. Oh my God, that's horrible. I would never do that. How can you do that to me? So they literally don't have enough self-awareness. Love bombing is the proof that they don't have self-awareness. They not only don't have self-awareness, they don't have awareness of the other. They don't have awareness of you. Because if they saw you for who you were, they wouldn't try and force you to become their parent, which is like God. They wouldn't try and force you into becoming God. Again, they've set you up because by love bombing you and worshiping you as a infant worships their parent, you're bound to disappoint them. And you know what happens when they get disappointed. Then they get rageful. So love bombing is not a manipulation. It is a sign that they are, in fact, psychotic. And the sad part for you is you didn't do anything to deserve that love. You didn't have the awareness because you were so desperate for love, because your parents didn't love you the way you wanted. You were so desperate for love that when you had that kind of love, you, through all of your self-regulating awareness, out the window, you didn't see any of the red flags. You went, yes, finally, somebody sees me for who I am and loves me for the amazing, beautiful person that I am. Finally. Instead, had you been self-aware, had you not had your own codependence, when they love bombed you, you would have gotten creeped out. You would have gone, back off a little bit. You don't know me well enough to love me this much. Something's going on. You would have, the red flag would come up to say, this is bound to fail. This is creepy. Because people who truly fall in love don't fall in love like that. If they do, and they're, anyway. So they literally have enough self-awareness to love bomb. No, they literally have enough complete lack of self-awareness to love bomb. Manipulate and use someone. Yes. Have you ever been with an infant? Infants are not interested in how they can give back to you. Infants are not even mentally capable of planning out how they're going to be a loving partner, a giving partner. No, infants are a complete need. They have tremendous emotional, physical needs that need to be met all the time. If their needs are not met, they go into a rage and they scream, cry. Now, when an infant does it, it's either annoying or rather cute, especially when they love bomb you. But there's nobody there yet who can love you back. So manipulation is something that infants do. They do it all the time. And you haven't seen that this adult is in fact an infant in an adult's body and an adult's brain. So they don't have any self-awareness when they love bomb and manipulate and use you because they're infants. He goes on to talk about the kinds of jobs that they do, and it's true, some, not all. In fact, the borderline I was with was completely incapable of supporting herself or having a job. But some are. But that's not the same as being in a relationship. Borderlines are the most toxic in romantic love relationships. That's where their dysfunction with their parental figure inside is explosively hurtful. Same thing with narcissists. It's the same issue, different expression. So I said, you ask really great questions. I'll make a video just to answer you. You are that special. So I don't have any hope that this person is going to stop and listen to what I'm saying. This person is going to take everything I said probably as a personal attack. This person is going to believe that I have devalued them, humiliated them. It's going to probably make them dig in even deeper and want to argue with me and do very manipulative, borderline kinds of things like this, which is distract and evade and ask rhetorical questions that can never be answered by exaggerating the feeling by reaching in and taking something completely, totally out of context and using it like, well, so if somebody murders their children, I hope not. I hope this person can actually watch my videos about the 4 things and do the 4 things and heal. But more than likely, this person is not ready for that, and I'm just going to serve to be somebody that they will get angry at and hold a resentment at, and according to them, I am making excuses and helping the evil lawbreaker get off, which isn't true. If you've listened to me, I've said some pretty difficult things for borderlines to hear, and a lot of borderlines get on my case. So I get it from both sides. In any case, we'll move on from that question. Same thing here. This person says, I think BPDs can and do plan the abuse. Their moral compass and empathy is on the level of a selfish, immature toddler. That's true. So are you saying that immature toddlers are evil geniuses that are planning out their abuse? So again, you're in conflict with yourself. Yes, you're absolutely right. Their moral compass and empathy is on the level of a selfish, immature toddler. What does that tell you? Immature toddlers don't sit behind computer screens and plan out elaborate long-term abuse. They only have a feeling in the moment that they want satisfied right now. And they do manipulate and they lie. And it's not because they're evil geniuses, it's because they're little babies. Both of these 2 guys have the understanding, but they're in denial of what they already know. He says their moral compass and empathy is on the level of a selfish, immature toddler, but the other parts of their brain are developed like in normal adults. That's partially true, but we know, again, if this guy had done enough study. So here again, we have 2 people who don't want to know the truth. What they want to do is they want to, again, prove to themselves that they are lovable, which of course they are. And the proof of that is that this person who didn't love them obviously saw that I was lovable and chose not to do it because they're evil. That's easier to tolerate because that means then there's hope that you can convince them to love you. Any of you that are full of rage, like I was, full of resentment, like I was, at your borderline ex, it means that you have hope that they will love you. That's why I keep hammering away at the fact that they have a mental illness. They're not capable. When you can accept the fact that they're not capable, then it will be as if you tried to have a romantic relationship, with a lamppost. Lamppost can't love you back no matter how much love you give it. A dog cannot play chess. No matter how much time you spend, and the dog sits there wanting to learn how to play chess. On the one hand, it doesn't have opposable thumbs, and on the other hand, it just doesn't have the ability to know how chess works. You said it. Borderlines are toddlers. They don't have any awareness of you. They don't have any awareness of your needs. They can't truly empathize. When they are empathizing like a little child, they are projecting onto you their own feelings. And the moment that they get distracted by some need or feeling within themselves, your needs disappear and it becomes all about them. That is a toddler. An adult who is healthy and individuated, when they project, which they do, their love onto somebody else, and then they have some feeling come up that distracts them, they have an internal, as you call it, an internal moral compass that says, okay, right now I'd really just like to spit on this person and run away, but this is my partner, I love them, I'm going to tolerate this feeling, and I'm going to act opposite from what I want to do right now, and I'm going to give them what they need. So this isn't hard to understand, right? So this is your immaturity. Your immaturity to not understand that they can't give you what you want. It's just that simple. And again, the only reason you can't accept that is because you have an unreasonable, neurotic hope that they will love you. And they won't, because they can't. You say, no 3-year-old would be able to manipulate my brother the way his BPD bitch of a girlfriend. And I say, really? You think 3-year-olds are not manipulative? So again, his thing is he can't tolerate the thought that they're infants. He has to accept that they're adults. Because again, his adult parents didn't love him. And understandably, he can't tolerate it. They were the adults. It was their job to love me as a child. They didn't. They obviously chose not to. They're evil, bad, immature people. But you're just in denial. That's it. So, last one. Somebody says, can you please speak on sex with the borderline? I cannot stop ruminating on my ex possible doing what she did with me. This has nothing to do with sex. And really, I mean, this is why I stopped doing live streams. This person doesn't know it, but they want to pull me into their rumination. I could care less about the sex you had with your borderline. What am I supposed to say? You want me to talk about sex with a borderline? It's amazing and heartbreaking, and it's addictive and devastating. There. Is there anything else I can say? Now can we move on to the healing part? The part that you can't stop ruminating? Talking about sex isn't going to help you stop ruminating, but doing the 4 things will. What are the 4 things? Number 1, you must go complete no contact. No contact doesn't mean you aren't talking to them. No contact doesn't mean they're not talking to you and you're waiting around for them to contact you. No contact means that you do everything in your power to make it impossible for them to contact you ever again. You throw your phone in the river, you block their phone, you block their email, you block all social media, you move, you change your address, you get a restraining order, you do whatever is necessary in your situation to make it impossible for them to contact you. Even if they never, because sometimes they will discard and never seek you out again. That's not what's important. Because they can discard you, but if you're still attached, you're not in no contact. Because energetically, ruminating, you're not no contact. You're ruminating on them. So you take the action that goes against the thing. You know, it was the most difficult thing I've ever done, was to go no contact with my borderline ex. Among the most difficult things I've ever done in my whole life. But you choosing to break off contact with the intent of making it impossible. When you break off contact, the intent is, this person will never ever have access to me ever again. That's no contact. That's number 1. Number 2, you go to coda.org and you go to a meeting, whether in person or online, I don't care. And you get a sponsor. Your first meeting, you seek out a sponsor and you work the 12 steps as soon as you can. Specifically, you work step number 4. You have to work step 4 and 5 with a sponsor. Working all 12 steps, that is thing number 2, with a sponsor, and then sponsor somebody else after you've done all 12. That's thing number 2. Concurrently, thing number 3, when you can afford it, is you go to therapy with a psychologist who will help you dig deep into your childhood and look into your unconscious and why you're so attracted to people that are in fact incapable of loving you, and why you can't let go of the obsession of having to force them, control them to love you when they can't. That's thing number 3. But if you can't afford a therapist, thing number 2 will in fact heal you better than thing number 3. So if you had a choice between doing the 12 steps, going to a therapist, always choose the 12 steps. My experience is that people who go to therapists sometimes get some conscious awareness of what's happening, but it doesn't give them the ability to change. The 12 steps actually restructure your brain chemistry so that you can take contrary action, and the actions that you take is what will change you, what will heal you, what will fix you. So ideally you do both. You're working the 12 steps while you're with a therapist. And by the way, any therapist who tells you that the 12 steps don't work, run from that person. Run from that person who says the 12 steps don't work. Okay? Most therapists, of course, will welcome you to work the 12 steps. So that's thing number 3. When you can afford it, work with a therapist. A psychologist, a licensed psychologist, not just a life coach. Some life coaches maybe, but for the most part, yeah, you want to deal with somebody who's actually has some training. And thing number 4 is doing some kind of daily meditation. I don't care if that's you're chanting a mantra, you're going to church, you're doing Zen meditation, you're swimming, you're walking in nature, some kind of meditative practice where you focus on something greater than you, whether that's nature, the ocean, God, Buddha, Krishna, I don't care. So those are the 4 things. You go no contact, you work all 12 steps with a sponsor in CODA, CODA.org. You work with a therapist when you can afford it, and you do daily meditation, which is really just step 11. That's it. If you want to heal, do those 4 things. If you don't do those 4 things, my experience is you probably will never completely heal. You may go through periods where you feel good, and then it'll come back up again, and next thing you know, 5 years later, 10 years later, you're waking up in the middle of the night in a sweat, ruminating about your ex, searching for them online, and the next thing you know, you've gotten yourself in another dysfunctional relationship. More than likely what happens is you don't ever get any real healing, and you spend your whole life in a victim mentality, still with unresolved cognitive dissonance. So there you go. I thought I'd check in. Of course, I'm repeating myself, which is why I don't make any videos. I'm saying the same thing over and over again because brand new people show up and, of course, are completely clueless about what's going on. And my job is to tell you, and then you can, more than likely, you won't do what I'm saying, and you'll want to argue with me about it. Or hopefully the people that have actually gone and done it, then you never have to watch this channel again. You never have to search YouTube for how to deal with the narcissist or the borderline, because you actually heal it. I don't deal with it. I don't spend any time thinking about narcissists or borderlines because I've healed that in me, because I did the 4 things. So if you want to have the freedom and the happiness that I have, of course I still have human problems. I still have psychological issues. But in terms of the relationship bothering me, causing me pain and damage, 0. I don't even think about it. So there you go. See you all in probably 6 months or something, I guess, when I get bored and I have nothing else to do. Wish you all the best. Take care.